This lecture is about dual polarization modulation with optical coherent detection, and we'll be talking today about some fundamental concepts that motivates us moving to dual polarization. So let's look at the context for this choice of polarization multiplexing. This is part of coherent detection, and remember what the motivation for coherent detection was. It was to increase capacity in order to send more bits per second. We also, with the coherent detection, not only increased capacity, but also we had the ability to scale capacity, to use higher order modulations, larger signal constellations in order to increase spectral efficiency, which increases capacity. But when we scale via this means of larger signal constellations, there are some very fundamental compromises that have to be made between getting better spectral efficiency but maybe less power efficiency. So now we're saying, in this context of coherent detection, what about polarization multiplexing? Of course, this lecture is concentrating on this aspect. So what's nice about this is it's an uncompromised scaling opportunity, or very limited compromises to make. There are some. And it's really too compelling to overlook. So it was, once we made the leap to coherent detection, making a further exploitation of polarization was kind of a no-brainer, something that was really, really compelling. And it's a unique mechanism, this one-shot chance at doing polarization also, to sort of increase across all kinds of metrics simultaneously. So let's go back to this idea of higher order modulation, and what was this fundamental compromise I was talking about. So constellation scaling, that means I'm adding bits per symbol. So instead of QPSK, I go to 16 QAM or some larger constellation. But each time I increase the size of the constellation, I'm increasing the spectral efficiency. What does that mean? If I have a certain bandwidth, so here is my bandwidth, this is available for exploitation. I've got some spectrum for my signal in here. If I use a smaller constellation, in this same bandwidth, I send a certain amount of information. If I double the size of the constellation, I double my capacity. I'm sending more information, but I'm staying in the same bandwidth. That means that my spectral efficiency, the efficiency of how I'm using this bandwidth available, is going up. But what happens at the same time is it requires greater signal-to-noise ratio. So that means that if I looked at the bit error rate versus SNR, or typically EB over N0, would be a better metric, you would see one order of spectral efficiency. So this is less spectral efficiency, but of course it's more, it's less spectrally efficient, but of course it's more power efficient, because for the same performance, I can get away with a smaller SNR than one of these, which would maybe have the largest spectral efficiency, but its power efficiency is quite low. So this is the fundamental trade-off. So going to coherent detection, it's great. We can scale. We can become more spectrally efficient, but it requires increased SNR. So that's one scaling. Now on top of it, there are some physical constraints and economic constraints that come into it, not just from this trade-off of power and spectral efficiency. Because, you know, what is this bandwidth that I can achieve? Well, if I use faster electronics, then my bandwidth is wider, but there's a limit. You know, there's only so wide I can go in order to increase the baud rate. And so that gives me a limit on total capacity. So I can scale, whatever the bandwidth is, I can scale, make this exchange, but what bandwidth is available is limited here. Also, this idea of, okay, I'll trade off, I'll just have better SNR. Well, I can't always get better SNR. The power may be limited. You know, my laser can only produce so much power. Or it's economics. You know, I just can't put in too much amplification because my application doesn't support the cost of that the added component, added complexity. So when we made the leap from intensity modulated direct detection to coherent detection, we had a dramatic increase in cost. The increase in cost was because instead of having a single photodiode, I had to have a coherent, an integrated coherent receiver. I had to have a more complex transmitter. So everything got more complex in the hardware, but I had a really dramatic improvement in capacity also, and the ability to make this exchange. So in particular, when we made this particular leap, QPSK was a huge improvement over on-off keying because this trade-off didn't exist just for QPSK. QPSK is twice as spectrally efficient as on-off keying, but it's also twice as power efficient because it was a move from one dimension to 2 dimensions. So just to give you the context of, what were we doing moving from IMDD to coherent? Because now I'm going to talk about where does polarization fit in? What kind of compromises are involved in the polarization modulation choice? So let's go back to some very fundamental theory about capacity, what's something known as the Shannon channel capacity, the Shannon spectral efficiency. This is the equation proposed by Shannon for an additive white Gaussian noise channel. It says that the capacity C, and that's usually in bits per second, how fast I can transmit per hertz, how much bandwidth am I occupying to send it, is proportional to B, where B is the bandwidth, so for a certain bandwidth. And then I have the log base 2 of the sum of 1 plus the signal-to-noise ratio. So this is a fundamental relationship for the additive white Gaussian noise channel. And if I want to increase capacity, then what I have to increase my spectral efficiency, I can throw more bandwidth at it, or I can throw better SNR at it. Both work. So when we exploit the multiplicative factor B, a common way that we can exploit it is by wavelength division multiplexing. So if I have electronics that says, I can only go this much of a bandwidth, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing many of them. And each one is going to have their own center wavelength. So that's wavelength division multiplexing. I'm putting a signal into each one of the wavelengths. And we can see that my capacity scales linear with this idea of wavelength division multiplexing. So that's kind of a nice way to increase capacity. And then again, as I said, why did I make it this wide? Well, I could have made it that wide. But I got to have faster electronics. So this B is being pushed by faster electronics. Is going to pick what the B is, and then I'm going to tile them just till I fill up the capacity of my optical fiber. So that's the multiplicative linear factor. But now we also have the one SNR, which is related to signal power. Of course, signal to noise ratio, so signal power is part of this. And that we can see it scales only logarithmically. So increasing my power by a lot only gives me a limited increase in capacity. So, so that's a way to increase capacity, but it's like harder. It's harder because of this trade-off. And also, I can't just increase signal power, without having some effect come from it. First of all, I said, my laser power may be limited, my cost may be limited because I don't want to do too much amplification, but it also might be that I would be triggering nonlinearities. Nonlinearities make it very hard to achieve this theoretical capacity. So for all these reasons, there are fundamental limits on how we can just push more data through. What can be our strategies? How can we attack this problem of increasing capacity? So I'm going to talk about different dimensions of signaling that we're using. Polarization is going to be another signal dimension. But let's look back at what we've already discussed about how a dimension adds capacity. We saw that wavelength division multiplexing exploited the frequency domain. I tiled channels in the frequency domain to increase capacity. I also talked about how we could use faster electronics to make that bandwidth wider, and that's exploiting the time domain. We talked also about larger constellations increasing capacity, and that exploits what we call the signal space domain, putting more bits per symbol. So there were trade-offs we saw between spectral power efficiencies. There's physical limits. This is some constraints on capacity. These were, like I said, somewhat complex compromises. They're not always easy to evaluate. like the simple one that I did give you was spectral versus power efficiency. And this is a classic topic in communications theory about this trade-off we have to make. I did mention that QPSK versus on-off keying, IMDD, this was one of the rare cases where there was no compromise. That QPSK was better across, it was better both spectrally efficient, it was also more power efficient. The reason was because I added a dimension. Okay, so the compromises depend. Now, dual polarization is a modulation where there's very limited compromise, that I can add a polarization dimension, double my capacity, and that's because I'm adding an orthogonal dimension, that these two polarizations are orthogonal to one another. So let's get into that, what I mean by orthogonality, in particular for polarization. So now we're focusing on the polarization multiplexing part. So suppose I have a monochromatic plane wave and that there's two polarizations. So this E of t is now going to be represented as a vector. I have a component in the X polarization and a component in the Y polarization. So we can think of these as two different data signals, maybe. So there's two signals, one on each polarization, and these two polarizations, if I took their inner product in the signal space, they would be zero inner product because they're orthogonal to one another. One polarization is orthogonal to the other. So as I said, we can use this for transmission. So when we use it for transmission, I've got some carrier frequency, some carrier wavelength, and I'm going to modulate it with data. So this is propagating along the z-axis, and we have data signals on the X and the Y polarization. So I'm going to suppose that I have some complex modulation formats, so I have an amplitude and a phase, and together they determine the data that is carried on it. So polarization modulation just means that I put one data signal on one polarization and an independent, different modulation on the second polarization. So in the special case of dual polarization QPSK, of course the amplitudes are 1 and the differences are just 4 phases. So these are the constellation falling on the unit circle. So we have the signal space expansion. We've talked about how we could have the expansion from a single dimension on-off keying to the two-dimensional, which was QPSK, and of course other two-dimensional, QAM, 16 QAM, other. And because I'm in a two-dimensional space, as I'm scaling up to larger constellations, essentially that means they're getting more tightly packed in this two-dimensional signal space. Now when I talk about single polarization versus dual polarization for QPSK, it's no longer 2D, but it's now 4D, four-dimensional, because it's two-dimensional in one polarization and it's two-dimensional in the second polarization, and this orthogonal modulation is the new dimension that I'm creating. So it's very important to understand the difference between orthogonal and non-orthogonal capacity doubling, because let's look at one example when I have WDM. WDM, when I was showing you the illustration earlier, some bandwidth, and I have two channels, each one occupying its own bandwidth, we can see that these channels are not overlapping. Because they're not overlapping, they're orthogonal. And because they're orthogonal, I simply get twice the capacity. In single polarization to dual polarization, single to dual polarization, I also have orthogonal. So I'm going to double the capacity, no compromise need. But when I go from QPSK to 16 QAM, there's a big compromise because the idea here about it being a non-orthogonal extension from 4 to QPSK, for instance, is 16 QAM, where there's 4 bits per symbol. So what happens on the orthogonal expansion? Well, I erased it, but we had two orthogonal WDM channels and capacity was doubled. And in the case of single polarization versus dual polarization, here is a projection on the X polarization, and I have my 4 symbol constellation here. I have an orthogonal. I have to plot them on a different plot because they don't relate to one another. They're completely orthogonal. I have another one in the Y polarization. So these two, no overlapping, they're orthogonal. And what happens on the other case when I'm doing QPSK versus 16 QAM? Well, this is both fall in a two-dimensional space. When I have 4 QPSK, I can imagine them being separated by this much, and now I've normalized it so that the total power is the same. I can divide the power across 4 points, or I can divide it across 16 points. But if I have the same average energy per bit, they look quite different. And we can see that these have a very wide spacing between them, and these have a very small spacing between them. And that is why I need more signal-to-noise ratio to get the same performance from these two different modulation formats, because this, when I add noise, it's easier to make mistakes here than here, because when I add noise, they're still quite far apart. So this is an illustration of the difference between orthogonal and non-orthogonal capacity expansion. When I expand it with orthogonal, I'm really getting, not having to deal with this compromise between spectral efficiency and power efficiency. So to conclude, with dual polarization, we can double the capacity with, I'll say, limited compromise. There's still some compromise to make, but it's not the big compromise that in order to double, I have to, get some increase in signal to noise ratio. That's not the case. But, okay, there is some difficulty. There's still some perturbations to polarization which occur during propagation in a fiber. So we're going to have to consider that and see that that does, when I don't get a free doubling of capacity. Also, we have to look at the hardware and the DSP complexity, because of course they also could change. What do I need in order to achieve this dual polarization? So in the future lectures we'll be talking about these effects.